Hi everyone, yeah, welcome back. So today I'm going to be sharing with you how to sew this three-part corset you see here. It is very simple, detailed, and beginner friendly. So in the previous tutorial, I shared how to draft this corset. If you're yet to watch the tutorial, I'll be dropping the link for you in the description box, and also the link will be displayed on your screen at this point. So now we are going to go into today's tutorial proper. So here I'm going ahead to cut out my fabric using the pattern I drafted, and this is what it looks like. And I also went ahead to cut out my lining piece at the same time. While cutting, I added 0.5 inch sewing allowance on the parts you see me touching, on this side of the front block of the blouse and also on this side. But for the side, there is none on the side because I already added that of the side while I was drafting. And here I have the back block of the corset. I also went ahead to add 0.5 inch allowance on the lower part, on the upper part, and also on this side, but there is none on the side also. So for the cup, I added 0.5 inch allowance all around on each part of the cup. So now I'm going to go ahead to start joining the piece together, and I'll be starting with the front block of the corset. The first thing I'll go ahead to do is to remove my pattern paper from the front block like you see me doing in the video, after which I'll go ahead to separate my lining piece from my main fabric. So whatever you do on your fabric, you'll be repeating the same thing on your lining piece. So the first thing I'm going to go ahead to quickly do now is to start joining the side to the center panel of the front block of the corset we are making. So the next thing I'm going to go ahead to do now is to go over to my sewing machine and join the side to the center panel of the corset. So I'll place it making sure the good face are facing each other. Then I'll go ahead to start stitching from the lower part down to the top, and I'll repeat the same thing for the other side and also for the lining piece. So I'll just drop this aside and bring the cups. So for the cups, I'm also going to go ahead to join the cups together. But the first cup I'm going to be joining together is number 2 and number 3. So I'll go ahead to place it like this. So this part is a little bit confusing. I'll advise you notch your cups so that you don't interchange it while trying to join them together. So the first thing I'll go ahead to do now is to remove my pattern paper like you see me doing in the video. After removing my pattern paper, I'm going to go ahead to start joining the piece together. So I'll pick one from this side and pick the other one from this side. That is, I'll pick 2 here and number 3. After doing that, I'll go ahead to place them, making sure the good face are facing each other. Then I'll go ahead to pin it together, and I'll be repeating the same thing for the other one and also for my lining piece. And once I'm done doing all this, I'm going to go over to my sewing machine to stitch them together. So after I was done joining the two cups together, this is what I have. This is what this one looked like, and this is what the other one looked like. As you can see, the cup is already taking shape. The next thing I'm going to go ahead to do now is to join number 1 to the cup. So before joining, I'm going to go ahead to notch the part that is going to be on the center of the corset. So please make sure you create your notches so you don't interchange it, because the cups will be looking similar. So to avoid getting confused, it is important you notch. So I'm going to go ahead to notch it now. After notching it, next I'm going to go ahead to do is to remove my pattern paper. Then I'll go ahead to attach it to the main cup. So I also went ahead to notch the cup at this point, indicating that this part is going to be on the center of the corset I'm going to be making. So next I'm going to go ahead to start arranging it like you see me doing in the video. So this is how it's going to look like. The next thing I'm going to go ahead to do now is to place it like this, making sure the good face is facing each other. Then I'll go over to my sewing machine to stitch it together, and I'll be repeating the same thing for the lining piece also. So I'll go ahead to quickly do this, then I'll come back to show you what to do next. So after sewing the cups together, this is what it is going to look like. As you can see, the cup is already taking shape and it came out really well. I also went ahead to open up the seam and give it a good press, and this is what I have. The next thing I'm going to go ahead to do now is to attach my bias to the cup. So I'm going to go ahead to place the bias in between number 2 and 3. That is on the part where I have my stitch. I'll place it like you see me doing in the video, and it's going to be stopping at the point where number 1 is joined to the number 2 and 3. So I'm going to go ahead to cut out my bias at this point like this. So once I'm done placing it at this point, I'm also going to go ahead to place another one on this side. That is where number 1 meets with number 2 and 3, and I will stitch it on it like this. So I'm going to go over to my sewing machine to do this, and I'll be repeating the same thing on the other cup also. So here I have the front block. After joining, this is what it is going to look like. I also went ahead to open up the seam and I gave it a good press, and this is what I have. The next thing I'm going to go ahead to do now is to create my boning channel on it using the bias. So I'll be creating a boning channel on the center of the front block like this. After doing this, I'm also going to go ahead to create another one at the point where the side and the center points meet. I'll place it on the seam like this and sew the bias on it, and I'll be repeating the same thing on the other side. So I'll be creating just 3 channels on the front block of the corset. So if you want many channels, you can create as many channels as you want on your corset, but for me, I'll be working with just these 3 I have on it. So I'm going to go back to my sewing machine to quickly do this, then I'll come back to show you what it looks like. After I was done creating the boning channel with the bias, this is what it is going to look like. I've also gone ahead to press it. So if you want more channels, you can simply create more channels on the side of the front block. But I'm going to be working with what I have on it like this. So the next thing I'm going to go ahead to do now is to attach the cup to the front block. So here I went ahead to attach my bias to the cup, and this is what it looks like after I was done doing that. So I'm going to go ahead to bring the front block of the corset, then I'll go ahead to place my cup on it like this. So the part where I notch is going to be on the mid part of the corset. So I'll go ahead to place it like this, then I will stitch the cup on the front block of the corset like you see me doing in the video, and I'll be repeating the same thing on the other side also. So don't forget that whatever you do on your main fabric is what you'll be doing on your lining. I'm not showing the lining part because I'm repeating the same thing on the lining. So I'll go back to my sewing machine to quickly do this, then I'll come back to show you what to do next. So after I was done attaching the cup to the main body, this is what it is going to look like, and this is what the inner part is going to look like. I also went ahead to give it a good press. This is what you should have once you're done doing this. The next thing I'm going to go ahead to do now is to make my own cup using my wadding. I will not be using an already made cup for this. I'll be using this wadding, and here I have the medium size wadding. So the next thing I'm going to go ahead to do now is to place my pattern on it. So I'll fold into 2 because I'm cutting for the 2 part at the same time, and I'll go ahead to place my pattern on it, after which I'll go ahead to cut it out. There will be no sewing allowance on the wadding, so I'll just go ahead to cut it out like you see me doing in the video. So after cutting the wadding, this is what it is going to look like. The next thing I'm going to go ahead to do now is to join it together like I joined my main fabric. So I'm going to go ahead to put my pattern paper aside, and I'll go ahead to place the 2 pieces like this. So make sure when sewing it, the part without the gum should be the wrong part, while the part with the gum should be the right part. So you go ahead to place it like this, then you stitch the 2 pieces together. And also don't forget to notch the part that is going to be on the center of the corset so you don't interchange it while trying to fix it. So I'll go back to my sewing machine to quickly do this. When stitching, I'll stitch using less than 0.25 allowance. So after I was done stitching, this is what it is going to look like once I was done stitching. So like I said earlier, when stitching it, make sure that the allowance you are using to stitch is less than 0.25. So make sure you try as much as you can to make the allowance very small. If you have a zigzag sewing machine, you can simply go ahead to do it with ease, but if you don't, just join the piece together and stitch it together using less than 0.25 sewing allowance. The next thing I'm going to go ahead to do now is to attach the cup to my main fabric. So I'm going ahead to notch the part that will be on the center part so it's easier. I'll go ahead to place it like this, then I'll use my pressing iron to keep the wadding in place with my main fabric. So if it is not attaching to your main fabric properly, you can simply go ahead to use your hemming gum to attach it to the main fabric. So I'll go ahead to quickly do this, then I'll come back to show you what to do next. So after fixing the cup to my main fabric, this is what it is going to look like once you're done doing that. So make sure you stick to the main fabric completely. So this is what you should have. The next thing I'm going to go ahead to do now is to join the back block to the front block. So here I have my back block. I'm going to go ahead to join the back to the front on the side. So I'll place it like this, making sure the good face are facing each other. Then I'll go over to my sewing machine and stitch it using the sewing allowance I added while drafting, and I'll be repeating the same thing for the lining piece also. So after joining the back and the front together, this is what it is going to look like once you are done joining the back to the front block of your corset. So the next thing I'm going to go ahead to do now is to attach my lining piece to it. So I'll go ahead to place my lining piece on it like this, making sure the good face are facing each other. Then I'll go over to my sewing machine to close up the upper part and the lower part of the corset. So I'll be leaving the side open. I'll not be closing up the side. I'll just go ahead to close up the upper part and the lower part. And also I forgot to actually do this in the video. Before joining your lining to your main fabric, make sure you insert your boning to it. So before I go ahead to join the lining to my main fabric, I'll go ahead to reduce the lining by 0.25 inch because I don't want the lining and my main fabric to be at the same length. So I'll go ahead to reduce it like you see me doing in the video. So after reducing my lining piece, I'll go ahead to attach it to the main fabric. Then I'll come back to show you what it looks like. So after I was done joining my lining to my main fabric, this is what I have after I was done doing that. And also this part is still open. I'm going to be turning it using the space I have on the side. So the next thing I'm going to go ahead to do now is to notch it like you see me doing in the video, after which I'll go ahead to turn it over to the good face. So after turning it, this is what it is going to look like. The next I'm going to go ahead to quickly do is to give it a good press. Then I'll be back to show you what to do next. So after I was done ironing the corset, this is what it looks like once I was done ironing, and this is what the inner part looks like once I was done. So you can also attach hemming gum to the neck area of the corset so that your lining doesn't come out. So this is what you should have once you're done doing all this. The next thing I'm going to go ahead to do now is to attach the loose to the back of the corset. And then doing that, the first thing to do is to fold in 0.5 inch on both your main fabric and your lining like this. After folding it in, go ahead to give it a good press and you will have something like this. And I've also gone ahead to make this long strip that I'll be using to create the loop at the back of the corset. So all you need to do is to fold your fabric and go ahead to stitch it together. So the next thing I'm going to go ahead to do now is to cut the desired length of the loop I'll be inserting to the back of the corset. And in doing that, the first thing I'll go ahead to do is to fold the strip into two like this. Then I'll go ahead to measure 1.5 inch, after which I'll go ahead to cut it out. So after cutting, I'll be fixing it in between my main fabric and the lining piece like this. But before I go ahead to start fixing it, the first thing I'm going to go ahead to do is to mark where the loop is going to be. So the first loop is going to be at the top. Then I'm going to go ahead to measure 2 inches from that point and mark. So that means the distance between each of the loop is going to be 2 inches, but you can go ahead to put as many loop as you want. So I'll go ahead to mark it all the way down to the edge of the fabric, and I'll also be repeating the same thing on the other side also. So once I'm done marking the fabric, the next I'm going to go ahead to do now is to fix the loop in between the lining and the main fabric. So you go ahead to fold your loop into two like this, then you place it in between your lining and your main fabric. So I'll go ahead to cut as many loop as will be enough for the space I marked. Then I'll fix it in between my lining and my main fabric, after which I'll go ahead to stitch on it. I'll also be repeating the same thing on the other side. So make sure the point you mark at this part is same as what you'll be marking on the other side. So I'll go ahead to quickly do this, then I'll come back to show you the final look. So after inserting the loops, this is what the corset is going to look like, and this is what the back is going to look like. As you can see, it came out so beautiful and it's looking very neat. And also I forgot to mention this, while fixing my boning, I didn't add the boning to the center channel, I only fixed to the side channel, and I used a sewable boning. So this is what you're going to be having once you're done making your corset top. So if you find this video helpful to you, please don't forget to subscribe if you are yet to, and also don't forget to like, share and drop a comment. This is going to help YouTube to recommend this video to other fashion designers. So guys, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next tutorial.